Alright mate, Slimeade here, and recently I've been thinking about the Terraria 1.4.5 update, which hopefully should be coming out very soon. Now, in that update, we're going to be getting some Dead Cells and Palworld content, and Palworld is kind of infamous for being a bit of a Pokemon parody. So I thought, out of a bit of irony, why don't I try and give every single Terraria boss a Pokemon type? Now, starting with the first boss that nobody ever actually fights, by the way, King Slime, which I considered a lot of different types, but I think water fits it the best. Might seem a bit of a weird choice at first, but there is an event called the Slime Rain. Also, one of the weapons that he drops, if you can even call it that, is a water gun that shoots slime. Now, I did actually consider the potential for a poison type, but not all slimes in Terraria are poisonous. Just a few, like the Toxic Sludge. Now for the real first boss of the game, the Eye of Cthulhu, which I thought was fitting to give it the dark type. There's not really too much to this guy, even though he is kind of the mascot of the game, but he does come out at night, and there is the whole evil presence thing. If you know anything about dark types, is that they're actually called the evil type in Japan, so I thought, well, that's fitting. Queen Bee is bug flying. I mean, look at Vespiquen. Bug flying makes sense because it's a bug that flies. Now, someone's going to say, why not bug poison considering the stingers? But I mean, the point of a stinger is to have poison in it as kind of a self-defense mechanism. Although, not quite self-defense for bees, I guess. Now, speaking of poison, I decided on Poison Dark for the Eater of Worlds. Now, if you know the lore of Terraria, the corruption is actually said to be a kind of cancer. And from Legends ZAO, however it's pronounced, we find out that Mega Dragalge can kind of unleash so much poison that it causes cancer. A bit of a weird thing to say, Nintendo. But the Dark type makes sense because, you know, Shadow Scales, Demonite, and the corruption is a world evil. Another boss fight that not many people actually fight, Daeclops, makes sense as an ice type. I mean, it lives in a snow biome, it comes out in the blizzard, it throws snowballs, it causes icicles, but then again, maybe Ice Dark because of the Shadow Hands? There's probably some Don't Starve reference in there that I'm not getting, but I saw Ice Dark make sense to me. And for Skeletron, I just went simple, Ghost type. It's really the closest to an undead type in the Pokemon series, and you've got Duskull, Alolan Marowak, and Houndstone, which all have that skeleton thing going on. Also, Skeletron cursed the guy, and cursing is kind of a ghost type deal in Pokemon. Now this next one is going to make me sound a bit like a lunatic. I've given the Wall of Flesh the Dark Fairy type. Now someone's probably going to say, well, why Fairy and why not Fire, because it comes from Hell? Well, it's simple. The ancient spirits of Light and Dark have been unleashed, which is, you know, the gateway into Hardmode. And considering it is the world's guardian, it releases the full potential of the corruption and the Hallow at the same time. I kind of thought it was fitting. Although, side note, I will say Psychic type does have just as much of a verification to be the Light type as Fairy. I'll get into that in a little bit. Now, I went a bit simple for the mechs. Steel Electric, because they are machines. I mean, sure, I could go the whole, Paradox route and give them all weird and wacky different types, despite being robots and that. But, yeah, I don't really think it needs too much thinking about. They do just, move around and shoot lasers. That's all they really do. However, someone would say that Steel Electric does give the Destroyer a massive ground weakness, and it's a creature that destroys the ground. Consider this though, the ability Earth Eater would make it immune. Plus it ties it back into the whole Eater of Worlds thing, which is kind of what it parallels in a way. Now for the first hard mode boss that nobody actually fights, Queen Slime, which I've decided on Water Fairy. It's kind of water for exactly the same reason as King Slime. But there's also the Sparkle Slime Balloons, which is apparently filled with party girl bathwater. That is disgusting. But the fairy type is very obvious. The Hallow is kind of the fairy tale biome. Plantera is kind of obvious. Grass poison. There's not really too much to it. It shoots poison seeds. That's pretty much it. Now, despite not actually being that interesting in the actual game, Golem is a lot more interesting here. I've given it Rock Fire. It's quite simple really, it's made out of lizard bricks, so that's where the rock type comes in. Plus you've also got Regirock, which is also kind of a rock golem, but whatever. Fire on the other hand, Golem kind of has a solar theme to him, kind of in a way. It can shoot fireballs, it's also solar powered, there's the whole sun imagery on the chest, and it does drop a heat ray. Also, reptiles really do like their heated rocks, don't they? Duke Fishrons might seem a bit weird at first with Water Dragon, but well, the water comes from it being the ocean boss. The dragon part, however, comes from the fact that Fishron is a mutated Pigron, which is half pig, half dragon. Also, Pokemon's no strangers to just slapping dragon types on really weird things. They make sense though when you think about it. Now remember whenever I said I'd come back to Summit with the theme of light, and the Empress of Light is that thing. For Empress of Light, I've decided on Fairy Psychic. Fairy part's very easy, she's a giant fairy. As for Psychic on the other hand, it's a little more complex. If you actually look at the moves that Psychic types can get, a lot of them are very light themed, with Luster Purge and Light Screen. But then you've also got Necrozma, whose whole deal is light, especially with moves like Photon Geyser, Prismatic Laser, there's Prismatic by the way, and Light That Burns the Sky. Also, speaking of Light That Burns the Sky, Ultra Necrozma is solidified light. Psychic type in a way is just kind of that type that encompasses a load of bunch of other stuff, especially like light, magic, space, etc, really. Remember literally just a second ago whenever I said Psychic type can also represent magic? That's why I'm giving the Lunatic Cultist Dark Psychic type. Now, it's very hard to put all of his spells and abilities into one solid type, so I just thought, well, Psychic represents magic, and as for Dark, well, he's the leader of an apocalypse cult, so... And finally, we've got the Moon Lord, who I've decided on Dark Ghost type. You were probably wondering, well, what about Psychic type considering it represents space? I was considering that, but we run into the Pokemon doesn't do triple types thing. Psychic type does actually work well with the whole mind going numb thing. And BEM can actually cause headaches and remove memories, which kind of lines up with that. Also, Psychic types are associated with space. However, things like illusions and teleportation are also associated with the Ghost type, so it went with that. Also, a lot of his attacks are called phantasmal, as in phantoms and illusions and like that. And, well, you've also got the Floating Ribcage, which is the same deal that Lunala, a Ghost type, has, although Lunala is also a Psychic type. But do I really need to explain Dark type? Because the Moonlord really is the main villain of Terraria. Just about everything in Terraria lore is as a result of the Moonlord. So anyway, let me know down in the comment section below what you change, or if there's anything that I could have done better with these typings. Also, I'm considering doing these for things like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure stands and also Mega Man Robot Masters, so if you're interested in that, stick around on my channel. But if you like this video, don't forget to comment, like, rate and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!